My mom who left us wants to come back. About 2 years ago, my mom left with her affair partner. She didn't just leave my dad. She left both of us, disappearing from our lives like she couldn't get away fast enough. It was sudden, but at the same time, I guess there were signs. I remember my dad being completely broken, spending weeks just sitting in his chair staring at nothing, barely eating or speaking. As for me, I was just numb. I didn't know how to process it all. Recently, out of the blue, my mom showed up again, knocking on our door as if nothing had happened. My dad didn't say a word, he just stared at her for a moment and then quietly closed the door in her face. I could see the hurt in his eyes, but also the resolve. He had made up his mind long ago that he wasn't going to let her back in. After my dad shut her out, she tried to get through to me instead. I think she assumed that because I'm her son, she'd have a better shot. Maybe she thought I'd be an easy target for her guilt trips or that I'd be desperate for her love after she left us, but really, I was angry. I had been holding on to this anger for 2 years, and now I had the chance to let it out. So, when she called and asked to meet, I jumped to the opportunity to finally tell her what I thought of her, how much she hurt us, and how much damage she caused. I was prepared to lay it all out there. When we finally met up, she had this air of sorrow about her, like she was the victim. I expected her to apologize, to beg for forgiveness, but instead, she tried to twist the whole narrative. She started saying that my dad was the real villain, that he had manipulated me into hating her. She claimed that he was abusive, that she had no choice but to leave, and that she realized she couldn't stay away from her son any longer. It was like she was reading from a script. I couldn't believe it. The thing is, it wasn't my dad who told me what happened. I saw everything unfold with my own eyes. I remember lying awake at night, pretending to be asleep while I listened to their heated arguments through the thin walls of our house. I heard the tension, the accusations, and the lies. I knew something was going on because I had seen her sneaking out late at night, sometimes not coming back until the early hours. I didn't fully understand what was happening back then, but I had a feeling it wasn't good. I also did my own investigating. I would sneak glances at her phone when she left it lying around. I saw the text messages, the late-night calls. I even knew the name and address of her affair partner. It wasn't hard to figure out that she was cheating on my dad. So, when she tried to tell me that I misunderstood the situation, that I was too young to understand, it was infuriating. She tried to play it off like I was just a naive kid who couldn't possibly grasp the complexities of adult relationships. But I was 14, not 4. I knew exactly what was happening, even if I didn't have the words to describe it at the time. As I laid all this out to her, she just kept shaking her head, saying that I was wrong, that I was just a child, and that my dad had poisoned my mind against her. It was so frustrating. No matter how many times I explained that I knew what she did, that I heard the arguments and read the messages, she kept insisting that I didn't know the whole story, that I was too young to understand. It was like talking to a brick wall. After a while, I realized why my dad didn't even bother talking to her. There's no point. She's never going to admit that she was wrong. In her mind, it's all my dad's fault. He's the bad guy, and I'm just a kid who can't judge her fairly. It's infuriating, but at the same time, I guess it's just who she is. She's always been someone who can't take responsibility for her actions. She has to blame someone else to make herself feel better. Walking away from that meeting, I felt a mix of emotions. Anger, mostly, but also a deep sense of sadness. Sadness for what our family used to be, and for what it could have been if she had just been honest. But now, I don't know if I'll ever be able to forgive her. Not because she left, but because she came back and tried to rewrite history, to make herself the victim in a story where she was the one who caused all the pain. And I think that's what hurts the most.